Welcome student to a couple of examples about consumer surplus. So just to remind you of the consumer surplus is the total amount by which the consumer came out ahead of a transaction. So it's equal the area between the equilibrium point, the price of the equilibrium, and demand, and it's given by this integral up here. So we take the demand function minus the equilibrium price. On the other hand, the producer is the total amount by which the producers, the seller, came out ahead, how much money he was willing to sell, but now he's selling with more money than he is expecting. And it's equal the area between the equilibrium and the supply, and it's given by the same integral as above, except that we switch between supply and the equilibrium price. Now, what we will do now, we will go through many other examples where we will apply the formula for the consumer surplus and the producer surplus. So let's see this example. So this example, we have two functions. We have the demand function and we have the supply function. Now, both of them are quadratic equations. The first thing first, we need to find the equilibrium point. So we have to find the equilibrium point, and through it we will go ahead and just continue. Now, what's the equilibrium point? We need to find when it's the demand equal the supply. So the demand equal the supply. Well, this happens when we write two equations equal to each other. What we will do next, we can take this q squared to the other side, and we can take 21 to the other side. So we will get 9 because we have 30 minus 21, 9. And if we want to take this 0.05 with 0.04, we get 0.09. And if we solve this quadratic equation using mod 5 or the quadratic formula, we will get two answers. One of them is 10, that's fine. The other one is negative 10, is rejected because I cannot have a quantity which is negative. So the only answer is q equal to 10. But that doesn't tell me what should be the price associated with q equal 10. So either you substitute in the first equation by q equal 10, or use the second equation and substitute q equal 10. In both cases, you get the same answer, and if we write it down, it will be 25. So q0 is 10, p0 is 25. Next is we need to find the consumer surplus, which is the integral of the demand minus the equilibrium. If we substitute from the question, we get 30 minus 0.05 q squared, this is the demand, minus 25, this is the equilibrium price. Now we have 30 minus 25, this is just 5, so we get 5 minus 0.05 q squared. Now what's the integral of 5? The integral of 5 is just 5q. The integral of q squared is q cube over 3. So you get 5q minus q cube over 3. Now with your calculator, substitute q equal to 10, and then substitute q equal to 0. This will be the final answer. We do the same thing for the producer surplus, which will be the same integral. And if we simplify it, we get this one. If we do the integration again, integral of 4 is 4q. Integral of a q squared is a q power 3 over 3. Now substitute 10 and then substitute 0. You get a different number. Of course, you can see here consumer surplus is higher. We will talk about what does it mean that the consumer surplus is higher for the economy, and what happens if the producer surplus is higher for the economy. That would be the end of this part. Again, another questions, different numbers, but the procedure is the same. So I go a little bit faster here. What we need to do first is we need to find the equilibrium point by writing the demand equal to supply. We write the demand function, supply function, take everything to one side. So you have to move q squared to the other side. 75, you can also take it to the other side. You reach to this quadratic equation. Solve it using mod 5 you get two answers, one of them positive, the other is negative. The negative is rejected because quantity cannot be negative. So the only answer we have is q equal to 4. Now either you substitute in the demand or in the supply q equal to 4 to find the final answer for the price, which we do it and we will get 59. What we'll do next, we apply the formula for the consumer surplus. We write the demand minus 59, which was the equilibrium price. Simplify it a bit, we get 16 minus q squared. That's good. Because now we know what's the integral of 16, it's 16q. We know what's the integral of a q squared, which is q power 3 over 3. Get this one. Finally, substitute 4 and then substitute 0. So we get 128 over 3. Producer surplus is the opposite. We start with the equilibrium price minus the supply. If we simplify it, we get this one. And now the integral of 32 is 32 cubed. The integral of q squared is q cubed over 3. If we do it, we get 256. In this case, the producer surplus is higher. So the producer are gaining more money than they are expecting to get compared to the consumer, which again, he will get money ahead of what he is expecting, but will be less than what the producer is. Again, we have a different next question, which is again, we have to find the equilibrium point by writing the demand equal to supply. Now, for this question, as usual, when you study at home by yourself, pause the video and try to solve it by yourself. And then compare your answer with the answer that it will show in a minute. So the step is demand equals supply, take everything to one side, and then find the value for the Q. We find the Q equal to 10. Either we substitute in the demand or in the supply to find the price. We get the price 14. And next, we find the consumer surplus, which is this one. Now, what's the integral of 6 is 6q. What is the integral of q squared is q cubed over 3. Substitute 10, substitute 0, you get just 40. Do the same for the producer surplus. You get this one. And now what is the integral of a 3? It's a 3 cubed. What is the integral of q squared? Is q cubed over 3. Substitute 10, you get 20. So in this case, the consumer surplus is much higher, which is 40. So he's way ahead of what's being expected. Now again, if you can pause this video while you study at home, pause this video, try to solve it all, and then compare your answer. We have demand and supply. So the first step, we find the equilibrium point where we make the demand equal to the supply. Move everything to one side. You get a quadratic equation. Solve it by the quadratic formula or mod 5.3. You will get two answers. One of them is negative 20 rejected because the quantity cannot be negative. The other one is a q equal to 5. You substitute it either in the first demand function or the supply function. You get the equilibrium price, which will be 20. Next, we write the formula for the consumer surplus, which is just the integral from 0 to q0 demand minus p0. And that's what we should get. The integral of 5 cubed and the q cubed, get 50 over 3. For the supply, we do the same thing, but except here, the integral of a q is a q squared over 2, and we get 75 over 2. Now, if we compare them, of course, clearly, the producer surplus is much higher. We move next. This one, we already did it in a previous example. And finally, we reach where we want to end this part by what is the significance of consumer surplus. When consumer surplus is high, remember, when the consumer surplus high, it means the customers are getting what they want to buy with much less price than they were anticipate to pay. For example, if I want to pay a phone and the phone costs $500, and when I go to the shop, I found it by $300, that's good news for me because in my wallet, I still have $500. I will buy the phone by $300. I will get $200 extra in my wallet. I will spend it somewhere else. And if I spend it somewhere else, the economy cycle will start to be moved and it will be very much healthy. So this means the consumer have more money left over to spend than they were expecting. They were prepared to pay higher prices, for example, $500 for the phone, and I get it by less than this. So this money over, it will help me by going for a vacation, going for a movie, going out, and it will help the whole economy. On the other hand, what happens if the producer surplus is high? Now, the producer is selling a product. Now, they are expecting to sell, for example, a phone by $200. But when they put it in the market, they see that people are willing to pay $300 for it. So they get $100 extra as a profit. What they will do with this profit, for these big companies, they can invest this money in more research, in making the product better, and having more growth, open more branches, open more factories, and of course distribute dividends for the stakeholders. So there are many benefits of having large and high consumer surpluses, and the way we find them, we use the integral.